Hey guys, Alvin here and welcome back to another video. Now in today's video we're going to take a look into a race that actually just happened this weekend, which is round 2 of NKCC, the first championship weekend that I take part in since I got back into China. And I'm going to talk you through the race and look into what happened, what was going through my mind, and if there's anything that I could have done to affect the outcome. So without any further ado, let's get straight into it. Now, before we get into the actual analysis, I think it is worth going through the background of this race just very briefly. Coming from an invitational that we had a couple of weeks back, the team had built a new generation of chassis and it tuned it a little bit. So we know that we have a very strong car going into this race, but we need to dial in the setup in order to extract the maximum out of the car. But throughout the practice, we've been trying to testing with various setups, and it didn't really quite work out, and we struggled for pace all weekend. And it actually wasn't until the race day we managed to get the right setup. And lucky enough for us, we actually managed to find a setup for qualifying, and it clicked with the car, it clicked with the track, and I was very confident with the car. So in the end, it gave us P4 in the qualifying, and it put us very front on the grid. So now let's get into the race and see what happened from there. So here we are at the heat, which is the first out of the 3 races we have on the race day. So as I mentioned, I qualified P4 on the grid, just right behind my teammate. And yeah, let's take a look into what happened. So there's me sitting in second slot of the second row. So we're lining up for the race start, and as you're about to see, I definitely didn't make the most out of this grid position. Also loads of cars racing in the senior this weekend. I think it's more than 30 cars we have here. So if I pause there, you can immediately see there's a bit of a problem with it. So in case if you haven't guessed it, my teammate Elna, right in front of me, didn't exactly line up with the car starting on pole, and it definitely hurt us in terms of the momentum that we have built up for the start. And the thing is, because at this point the car on the odd number grids are already building up the momentum out the final corner, and they are already having the advantage and pulling away from the guys who are sitting in the even numbers row. And the thing about this is, because in this particular moment that we're sitting here, the light was still on, they weren't off, and that means that the race hasn't officially started yet. So we can't pull out from our starting channels, which means that you can pretty much do nothing apart from sitting behind the second car until the light goes out. And the thing is, because we already lost so much momentum, and even if we are trying to step on the throttle and trying to catch up, you can see we already lost a lot of momentum, and I think I've dropped all the way back into 9th place, I believe, right after turn 1 and 2. So it wasn't good, and definitely it's kind of a shit happened for a race. But I think one thing that is worth mentioning here is that even I was sitting right behind the second car, there was one thing that I could have done that I didn't do, was to push the car ahead. Even though the light wasn't off, the one thing that I could do is pushing the car ahead of me without trying to ruin the bumpers. So obviously I had to find a balance there. But if I would have done that out of the exit of the final corner and build up the momentum and trying to push the car ahead to line up alongside the car who was sitting in pole position, we could have gotten a completely different situation going into turn 1, instead of losing so much momentum and position going into that. And we had to spend the time in the heat trying to make up all the lost ground instead of trying to gain more from where we were. So this is one thing that I didn't do, and as you can see right there, for a very brief moment the car behind me was actually doing this thing that I mentioned, and he was at the start, as you can see, he actually bumped into me. He was trying to push me to try to gain more momentum, because staying in the channel, the only thing that we can do is to try to push the car ahead to go quicker. And this is what the car behind me has done, and the thing that I haven't managed to be doing so. So yeah, despite the P4, we still lost a lot of ground and dropped all the way back into P9. And as you can see here, now I'm stuck in the midfield trying to scrap for positions and stuff. And the race would definitely have been very different if I would have tried to push the car ahead. But it is what it is. It's a bit of a lack of experience, of course. But hey, this is the reason why we need to going back and reviewing our races. So yeah, as you can see here now, I was already way down in P9. And obviously after losing so much momentum at the start, now to get back all the lost ground. And the car behind me, on the other hand, they were already having the momentum at the start because they were further back. So they weren't affected by this as much. So it is kind of a awkward position to be in, because the car behind you have more momentum going in and you already lost your momentum and you're trying to build that up, and you're stuck in the midfield. You have to try to make up position while protecting your position. So it's a difficult place to be in. And I think for this particular reason, I think it's a very great reminder to everyone who's racing again, is that the start is undoubtedly one of the most important parts to be getting right in a race. But unfortunately we didn't get it this time, so yeah. And nothing really stood out in the remaining of the heat, apart from me struggling a little bit to trying to get back some positions, because while the tire pressure worked in the qualifying, it didn't quite work in the heat because the rubber were building up very rapidly given the condition that we were in. So the car was feeling a little bit tight. There was quite a bit of friction, and I can maintain the momentum compared to the car ahead, but I didn't quite gain any time. So I only managed to pick up some scrap that is going on in front of me, and I remember I finished P6 in this particular heat. And because the regulations of the race, you can't fit a GoPro during a race, so there's no onboard footage, so I don't think there's anything particular that stands out. So yeah, I might just skip ahead and see if I can get a few shots of me trying to make up positions and stuff. Yeah, and here is me and my teammate now being jam-packed in the middle, and we're trying to make up positions. And because we're both kind of lacking that experience in terms of racing in the pack, so yeah, we were kind of stuck, but I had a bit more momentum, so I got past her, and then I was just doing my best to trying to maintain the momentum and trying to just get back as many positions as we can. And apart from that, there was I don't think there was anything that is really worth mentioning about, since I don't think I have made too many moves in this particular race, apart from me picking up the scrap in front of me. Yeah, I think. Yeah, and here the midfield battle was actually quite exciting, but unfortunately I missed it. And I think fortunate for me at this given moment, because I was trying to catch up to the car in front, and the last thing you want is the car behind you to trying to attack you. And whenever there's any kind of scrap going on and you lose time to the car ahead, this is practically how senior works. So it was definitely a good news for me, personally. But yeah, nothing really too special happened here. Oh yeah, and that's my teammate retiring from the race because of I think it was a mechanical issue or something like that. Okay, so let's skip ahead into the pre-final, which is the race where everything kind of gone downhill. So let's take a look into that. Then skip a little bit further ahead. Okay, let's dial it back. So I think this is the formation lap. And okay, let's dial it back. Hang on a minute. I think we already had an incident there. I think, yeah. Sorry about that. Just struggle a little bit to trying to find the timeline on this particular live stream replay. Okay, so here in the pre-final, I started P5 because one of the car in front of me got a bumper penalty in the heat. So instead of starting on P6, now I start on P5. And instead of starting on the outside, this time I'm starting on the inside. And the cars ahead of me are different this time. So obviously, it will mean that I have better momentum at the race start. So, and it was. And we were going into turn 1, and everything got a little bit tight. And as you can see here, everyone was jam-packed together. We were all very tight, trying to scrap for positions without trying to lose time. And this is what happened. Yeah. I got into a typical lap 1 incident, and there's me climb out the car, pathetically trying to make an attempt to get back into the race. And there's me, look at that, with my chicken arms, absolutely failing to trying to get the car back into action. Okay, so all jokes aside, let's roll it back and see what happened. So right here, the starting momentum were at least more equal compared to the heat, but this time round it's a line on the outside got a bit more momentum, and I was kind of pinned down in the middle because all cars was trying to squeeze themselves into the inside of the track because all the rubbers are being laid down on the racing line, so you don't want to go anything further than that. So everyone's trying to scrap for positions and stuff, and I was being jam-packed right in the middle of the pack. I've got car ahead of me, I've got car right next to me on my left-hand side, and I've got car right behind me as well. A whole pack of them, to be honest. Pack. And right here, the reason why I push the car ahead of me and the car alongside me is because the car behind me didn't manage to slow down appropriately. So I got bumped into, and then because I was losing momentum, I lost control of the car. And then I went straight on when all the cars should be trying to turn right and making themselves into the corner. I was flying straight out from the apex, and because of that bump, my rear axle, I believe it's lifted off very slightly. So I lost control of the car, and I ran into a whole pack of cars who were trying to make it into turn 1. And as you can see, it created an absolute mayhem. I actually launched a couple of cars out turn 1, and also got into a couple of scraps when there's a few cars trying to avoid the incident that was happening, because everything started on the inside of the corner and then slowly made its way outside the corner when everyone trying to make it through. So yeah, it got a bit messy, and I took out quite a few cars, and obviously this me being happening in the middle of them all, And yeah, even though off camera I actually managed to pull the car back out on track. I was trying to get back into it. It didn't quite happen because the car wouldn't move. And later I found out when I get back into the garage is that I have a broken rear axle and a bent chassis. And it's quite terribly bent. So yeah, there was nothing really I could have done there to get the car back, though. Now looking at the start, the camera didn't quite catch the action because it was so focused on the entire pack making it through, and by the time it was filming here, it was already happening. So right here, what exactly happened is that the car behind me didn't slow down, and then it bumped it right into me. I lost my momentum, and then initially I bumped into the car ahead of me first, just very slightly, so slow me down a little bit. But at that point I was already losing my momentum, and because the car behind me was continuously just trying to push me and trying to, you know, just push the car ahead just a little bit further to trying to gain some advantage, because everyone was pinned down in the corner and there was a car on the outside. And because I lost my momentum and I was relatively inside compared to what the others were. So with that momentum that I was carrying, I ran into a couple of cars, and that was actually more than I remember. I actually took out, I think, 3 cars out of turn 1 right there, I think. And 2 more in the process, because those 2 actually got a DNF, and then the rest kind of carried on. And me obviously being the protagonist of this particular incident, I obviously didn't make it back, even though I was trying to. So yeah, nothing more I could have really done there. It was just kind of a typical that one incident that I got myself into there. I was pinned down in the middle, being pushed, lost my momentum, and then that's it. So that was the end of that. And like I said, because I ended up with a bent chassis and a broken rear axle, so for the final I swapped onto another chassis, and what I could really do was just do my best and see if I can make up more positions from where I was, which was pretty much dead last. So going to the final, I was on another chassis, which is a slightly softer version of the chassis that I was using in the previous 2 races. And I was starting P26. And pretty far behind, but because we had great pace and the momentum, I had the confidence to maybe trying to make myself back into the top 10 if I could from this race. But it didn't happen. While I was trying to make myself up through the field, I made contact with one of the cars behind, and yeah, lost an awful amount of time trying to recover from that, and didn't really get a momentum from there on. So yeah, finishing P20 overall in this race. And yeah, nothing really more to be said about, apart from you know, a bit unlucky, and being a bit out of place, and something that I probably should have been more aware of when I was making that race start in the heat. It kind of all went downhill from there, and it's kind of a chain reaction going on from there. But nothing to be really complain about, because I did my best, and the car was great. It had great pace. It was pretty smooth, and I was pretty confident in it, and I performed fairly well until the crash and stuff. So yeah, overall, not really the best race for sure, but it's definitely more positive than the ones that I had. So yeah, and nothing really more to be looked into really, because in the final I didn't really manage to get into the camera action because I was so far behind. So yeah, I think that's it then. Yeah. So, after all that, what is the verdict? Well, we've got the package except for a little bit of experience and something that I didn't know that I needed: luck. The car felt and was competitive even against the top chassis makers like OTKs and CRGs and etc. And I was very much confident in the car to be fighting for a top 5 finish and perhaps a little bit more. However, I guess it's a testament of the fact that racing is a ever-changing and unpredictable sport, that sometimes things just won't go in your way even if you have played everything right. And it's a thing that we, as racing drivers, that we have to accept. No doubt that this race is a hard pill to swallow, but at the very least it's a very great confident boost to the team, knowing that we have what it takes to get that victory whenever that chance comes. As ever, I'm Alvin Wong. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe, hit the bell icon if you haven't already, and I shall see you in my next video. Cheers guys, take care, and I shall see you soon.